In this tutorial today, I'm going to show you how I personally edit whites in Lightroom. And I do it in Lightroom because I want to get the images, the colours, as close to the actual tones as possible and then sync it with all the other images. And Lightroom is perfect for that. So here we have gorgeous Maya, and she's 11 days old and she weighs £7 5 ounces, and she is just gorgeous. She was beautiful to photograph, and look at those little chubby cheeks. All right, so as you can see, this is a white backdrop, and because of my settings up here, my f-stop is 1.8, and because the aperture is really wide, it's going to bring in more ambient light, which is warmer. So you can see here there's yellows and oranges and reds, and it really needs to be as close to white as possible. So my settings were ISO 50, which is my lowest possible ISO setting on my camera. I used my 50mm lens, and I shot this image at 1.8 and 200th of a second. And I shoot this at the lowest ISO because that means that I've got full control over the brightness of the image. And you can see here it's actually really quite dark, but you'll see how I will get the colours and tones that I'm really after without increasing the exposure by that much, but by just altering the other elements in Lightroom. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, because it's very warm, is I'm going to click this eyedropper here, because this is fabulous at making white backdrops, grey backdrops, colour free. So I'm going to click on here, and then I tend to go to a shadier area, which is about here, but as you can see that's making it a little bit too cool. So I'll just click around, and I'd say that was pretty good. This is all looking very nice and grey. So I'm just going to up it just a tiny bit to 4850, and then I am going to just move this tint slider a little bit more towards the magentas at -4. The next thing, I'm just going to brighten it a touch to about +15. And the next thing I'm going to do is go down to the highlights, and I'm going to push those up to 100. The shadows I'll keep the same, and the whites now, because it's a white backdrop, I'm going to bring those up to about +55. And then I'm going to increase the contrast a touch by darkening the blacks to about -14. Then I'm going to move down to the clarity slider, and because I've shot at 1.8, my clarity is going to be -10, as it always is. And then I am just going to up the vibrance, and although this image looks really quite colourful already, I'm going to be reducing the oranges a bit later on, so I'm going to up the vibrance by a little bit to about there, +24. Next I move down to this wonderful panel here, the HSL panel, and if you click on the red one here, you'll just get the single red sliders, but if you click on this little colour wheel, then you're going to be able to see all of the sliders there. And the two that we're interested in, or I'm interested in today, are the reds and the oranges. So the first one I'm going to address is the red one, and as I always do, I'm going to up that, because now we're just affecting the skin, we're not affecting the backdrop, because the backdrop is lovely and it's great at the moment, but it's colour free. So the reds I'm going to take towards the oranges, and I'm going to going to move to about there, plus 34. And in this instance, I'm also going to use the luminance slider, and the luminance darkens and brightens the colour. So if we go down, you can see it's darkening all those reds, and then if we move to the other way, it's going to brighten. So I'm going to take this up to quite high, to about, yeah, about plus 55. And the reason why I can do it in this image is because the colour tones of the face are the same as the fingers, and that's the only reason I don't use it sometimes, is because it affects the fingers and makes them too bright. But in this instance it works, and it smooths out the little red blotches on the skin. Right, now I'm going to go to the orange section here, and it's looking pretty orange to me. So I'm going to move the hue slider towards the yellows to about there, plus 10, and I'm going to desaturate the oranges by minus 25. And the luminance, so we increased it with the reds, but with the oranges I tend to lower the luminance, and that reintroduces the texture back to the skin. So I'm going to bring that down to about minus 17, and that is all I would do there. Moving down, I then go to the lens correction section, and this is what I do with all of my light backdrops, especially white. I click on this enable profile corrections box here, and as you can see, it's done an incredible job. It lifts the vignette and it corrects the profile as well of the lens that I've used. Alright, and we've almost finished, and I'm going to come down to the vignetting. So I don't really like, on whites, I don't really like any vignetting, and as you can see it's looking quite grey around the edges still, even after ticking the other box. So I'm going to, and as you can see here, this is the vignetting section, and you've got a few options. One, highlight priority, colour priority, and paint overlay. So I'm only interested in the highlight priority at the moment. And I'm going to up this to about 20, yeah, about 25. And it's looking even more white now. And this, I'm going to leave the midpoint as it is. And the roundness, I'm just going to swing the slider to the left and then to the right so you can see. And I want it to be very round. So I'm going to literally take that up to plus 100, and the final change would be the feathering. And as you can see, if I drop it down to the left, there's no feathering at all, and then if I go to the other end, it's beautifully feathered from the baby, from the center point outwards. And I think that would be it. I think that's all I would do there. So if we have a look at the, so this is the after, and oops, so this is after and this is before, after and before. And as you can see, it looks beautifully white. We've done majority of the work in Lightroom, and then the final thing that I would do would be to synchronize everything, and then I would just quickly go through and do my cropping and just check each individual image. So I'm holding the shift key down and I'm just going to crop this image. I'm just going to have a little look, see. So, no, I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it at -14, and then we're going to go to the next one. Just crop in. I'm just going to rotate this one round. I'm just going to look at dropping the highlights a little bit on this one. And again, up in this corner, I'm just going to rotate this little image round a bit more. So I am actually going to try using the healing tool here and just see what it does. It should do a reasonable job. And I can just see a touch of yellow in here, so I'm just going to go down to my HSL panel and I'm going to desaturate the yellows, so you can see there. So you don't have to completely remove all of the colour, so just a bit like that. And here I will just crop in like this. And I'll address the rest of this in Photoshop. Same thing, I'm going to use the healing tool and see how we get on. And the final image is this one, and I'm just going to rotate her around. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to crop in here, and then, because we're losing too much of the canvas by rotating, so I'm just going to crop it in, click done, and then that would be it. And I'm just going to come up here and just see how this is looking. So I might just drop the highlights down just a little bit. No, I'm happy with that. Alright, and then I would literally just export those now out into my computer and onto my Mac, and then complete the editing in Photoshop. So I hope that helps you guys. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.